For those who are unfamiliar, if you want to speak, there's this little square button on the side. You press it and it will light up like this. Want to try it first? It's on the mic here, right here on the mic.
Base of the mic.
The base of the mic, right. There's a little square, a little,
Gotcha.
that's right, little square button. Tell your seatmate there how to, where the button is.
Right. See where I'm putting. Thank you.
Everybody got it? Everybody know how to light it up? Okay, all right. You can either leave it on, but then that means it's recording everything you say. When you, or you can turn it on when you get ready to speak. Okay? All right, so good afternoon. Welcome to the Wayne County Community Corrections Advisory Board meeting. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Judge Williams. Pastor Williams.
Here.
Commander Stewart.
Here.
Ms. Robinson.
Present.
Mr. Howard.
Present.
Mr. Harris.
Present.
Judge Edwards is excused. Chief Dunlap.
Here.
Mr. Karikian.
Present.
Judge Braxton.
Chairwoman Clark Coleman.
Here.
You have a quorum present.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Remarks from the chair. I guess I have none. We'll just move right on into item C.
Item C, approval of the April 21st, 2022 meeting minutes.
Motion, please.
So move.
A, it's been properly moved, and second, that we approve the minutes of the April 21st, 22 minutes. So are there questions on the motion? Oh, I'm sorry. Are there questions on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Those opposed? The motion carries. Next item, Madam Clerk.
Item D, unfinished business. There is none listed. Moving to item E1 under new business, fiscal year 2023 funding proposal.
Ebony, you're on.
Good afternoon, members. As a point of clarification, the agenda was prepared prior to Commander Tiffany Stewart's elevation, and she has recently been appointed to Deputy Chief.
Oh, wow.
And so we'd like to make record of that.
Kind of promotions.
So members, if you may recall, first of all, I'd like to thank you for your ability to pivot during the pandemic and your willingness to meet as a result of my absence. I thank you for all of your prayers and calls that you made as I was home with my family, taking care of some business. So I definitely thank you all for that. I'm sorry, I'm Ebony McCann. I am the Wayne County Adult Community Corrections Administrator. And so everything I said previously, thank you. But I would like to proceed with the fiscal year 2023 funding proposal. So when you guys met on April 21st, 2022, an application was presented to you. Included in that application were programs that were anticipated for fiscal year 2023. There were items that were discussed during that meeting on April 21st, 2022. And as a result, you approved the funding application and it was submitted to the Michigan Department of Corrections on May 1st, 2022. We have received the funding proposal from the Michigan Department of Corrections Office of Community Corrections, and the funding proposal is approximately $584,000 less than what was requested. So for fiscal year 2019, good grief. For fiscal year 2023, we were awarded $1,987,876 for programming for Wayne County offenders, as well as to staff the community corrections staff. So obviously, with that significant reduction, we have to look at ways in which we could allocate or reallocate the funding to ensure that, one, we are able to provide services and staff the staff of the department. I did prepare for you an abbreviated version or summary of the budget. You have the full budget in your package, but I did want to provide a summary just so that it would be easier for you to navigate. And so it's this 11 by 17 document that was placed on your desk.
Before we move on, is there any possibility that they might reconsider and increase the appropriations?
So one of the reasons, there were several factors that played into the state's decision to reduce our overall funding. There was discussion or mention in the application that most Wayne County offenders don't benefit or utilize the services that DWIN offers because they use their own private insurance. And so as a result, it was determined that because offenders have their own Medicaid or Healthy Choice, that there isn't a gap in service. So that was one of the issues that was noted in the funding proposal. Secondly, expenditures and utilization across the board have been significantly reduced as a result of the pandemic. I do know that in the past, we've had the option to request additional funding to MDOC, but we have to show that there's a need. And so hopefully, as a result of this discussion and future discussions with a potential subcommittee, as we pivot and identify a way to obtain referrals in an unconventional manner. So most of our all of our referrals for adult community corrections come directly from a judge that sentences a defendant or a probation violator. And there have been talks, and so I know everyone is familiar that Third Circuit Court has a significant backlog of cases. And so we aren't seeing enrollments as we would like to see them because of the backlog and because of the staffing challenges and not having enough clerks to man the courtrooms. And so we have to pivot and think of unconventional ways in which we can obtain referrals. And so I have spoken with the Michigan Department of Corrections, probation department to see how we could reimagine our referral process. The probation agents do have the ability to directly refer probation violators to our programming. So just making sure that the agents are aware of all of the services that we have to offer and that the referral process for probation agents is seamless. And hopefully we will see an increase of referrals this upcoming fiscal year.
I understand that many of the judges will be returning to the courtrooms, which I would imagine will reduce the amount of backlog. And perhaps that might affect our residents.
I think as the judges work to resolve the backlog, we may see increased referrals, but they obviously have to get rid of the backlog cases first. And if those offenders or defendants whom have been successfully reporting appropriately and haven't had any violations of their bond, they may be closed out successfully and there may not be a need for them to be sentenced to programming. And so I think that our best way of getting additional enrollments prior to this backlog being resolved is to target the probation violators that will need or benefit from the services that we offer. So the first program,
Madam Chair,
I'm sorry.
through the chair, do you have an extra copy of that I can?
My apologies. At the top of your sheet, Jail Plus program. The Jail Plus program, what we affectionately refer to Jail Plus 3, is a 3-tiered program in which defendants receive a 30-day cognitive behavioral therapy curriculum in the jail. It's then followed by residential treatment in the community and then relapse prevention. The previous provider for that service was PAGE, or ETRS, Education Training Research Services. Their contract expires on September 30th. An RFP was issued the earlier part of 2022. There were 2 respondents, ETRS and Lake Ridge Village. And Lake Ridge Village was the winning proposer of that contract. We are still working or resolving some issues with the contract, but it is anticipated that beginning October 1, Lake Ridge Village will be in the Wayne County Jail providing the cognitive behavioral therapy services for the PAGE part, for the cognitive behavioral therapy program. We project to serve at least 60 participants based on this $53,300 amount. And so I've spoken with the vendor, and if there is a need for increased funding to accommodate additional referrals, that is something that we can request to MDOC as we show a need. The jail-based programming, domestic violence, has been in existence for years. We definitely have seen a reduction in referrals to DVT jail as a result of the pandemic. However, it is my hope that through collaborative efforts with the Michigan Department of Corrections, that we can see an increase of referrals in that program. It was requested in the application that we allocate $100,000 for that particular line item. I did reduce it to $90,110 as a result of their current expenditures. Similarly, with domestic violence community-based programming, we have actually seen an increase of referrals to community-based domestic violence programming. And so in the application, $60,000 was requested, and I actually increased that request to $100,000 to accommodate the referrals that we're seeing being sent to domestic violence in the community. The Wayne County Sheriff's Office, GPS Tether program has been one of the only programs that has maintained steady referrals during the pandemic. And as a result, $250,000 was requested, and that amount was unchanged in my proposal. If I may skip over trauma-informed care, because I'd like to discuss that with the other cognitive behavioral therapy curriculum. And I'm going to skip down to apprehension services. Adult Fugitive Apprehension Services, this program has provided funding for apprehension efforts for those defendants that have been sentenced to a probation residential services facility and or sentenced to a specialty court. So if you are sentenced to a specialty court, that's drug court, veterans treatment court, mental health court, or the Swift Sure sanction program by the Third Circuit Court. If you violate any terms of your probation, the Wayne County Sheriff's Office could apprehend those offenders. We are unable to apprehend anyone else that falls out of those 2 categories. So you have to be sentenced to a residential treatment facility or be sentenced to participate in one of the specialty courts. The referrals for that program were low or have been low for fiscal year 2022. And it is as a direct result of there haven't been a lot of referrals to the specialty courts. And so because referrals are low to specialty courts, apprehension efforts are low as well. And as a result, I did reduce, there was $170,000 requested in the fiscal year 2023 application. I did reduce that to $100,000. The drunk driver jail reduction program targets those OUIL third offenders. And the referrals for programming, this program takes place in the community. The referrals for the program have been relatively low. And so as a result, I did reduce that amount from 60,000 to 30,000. And I will tell you why these reductions, obviously, because we are attempting to accommodate for this overall reduction, but there is a new program that I will discuss at the end of this presentation. The drunk driver jail reduction in-house assessment just allows the Wayne County Sheriff's Office to house defendants for up to 5 days to allow for an assessment to determine their eligibility for programming. So that's not a program, it's solely a 5-day jail stay to accommodate an assessment to be completed by the substance use disorder provider, which in this instance is ETRS. The Heal the Hurt Gun Violence Prevention and Intervention Program was a new program that was included in the fiscal year 2023 funding proposal. This program is geared to address those offenders that committed a crime while in the possession of a gun. The program has, an RFP will need to be issued for this particular program. It will require extensive research to develop a robust program. And so $400,000 was allocated for this particular program, whether it encompasses cognitive behavioral therapy, a mentorship component, an educational component. The vendor that we will hopefully, the vendor that we're seeking will have to provide all of those services, as well as have a collaboration with the vocational community to ensure that not only are we changing the mind and thought process of these participants, but we're also providing them with a viable means to obtain an education and become employed. The staff that will be working exclusively on this particular program development, their salary is listed in that community violence prevention intervention section of the proposal that you're looking at. I took a pause to skip the programs that were not funded because I think that it is imperative to focus on them for a little bit of time. For years, and I've been in this role since 2017, for years, Wayne County Adult Community Corrections has listed the Detroit Wayne Integrative Health Network as the primary inpatient health provider in our fiscal year applications. And so what that means is that based on the litany of services that DWIN offers, we are able to enter into an intergovernmental agreement and utilize those services. What has happened in the past is that we were able to use peer recovery, coaching, psychiatric referrals. We had access to the ability to refer probationers for psychiatric referrals or evaluations. But more importantly, they provided relapse prevention, drug testing in the court, and individual cognitive behavioral therapy in the community. DWIN was not included or listed in the fiscal year 2023 funding application. And as a result, we are unable to partner with them this upcoming fiscal year. So that means that the services that we previously provided, the relapse prevention through Black Family Development, the drug testing at Third Circuit Court provided by Detroit Recovery Project, and the staff that was an employee of Detroit Recovery Project, we're no longer able to provide those services for. While court has not resolved back to full capacity in operations in the past, the bench relied heavily on having an on-site drug testing provider in the court. The judges would use the results of the drug test to determine the sentence of the defendant. And so it's definitely frustrating to see this agreement go. There were and have been some challenges with the processing of the intergovernmental agreement with DWIN, and the delays have caused a significant concern or raised significant concern of the Michigan Department of Corrections, Office of Community Corrections, and as a result, they did not provide funding. I have spoken at length with both Black Family Development and the Michigan Department of Corrections and the specialty courts to kind of convey what does this look like? How can we, while we aren't providing financial support, how can we partner with you to ensure that referrals are continuing and that you are receiving the documentation that you need to identify potential drug testers or participants for relapse prevention. And so these are ongoing conversations, and Community Corrections has made the commitment to assist Black Family Development and the specialty court programs as they try to navigate this new normal by not having these services offered. So I just wanted to pause to discuss that's why DWIN is not listed. We did, however, receive funding to provide trauma-informed care for women only in the amount of $150,000. In the past, the trauma-informed care was provided by a DWIN vendor. It was listed in the application that the trauma-informed care will be now provided by the federally qualified health clinic, the FQHC. And so I've spoken with the director of the FQHC to see how we could now formulate an agreement for them to provide this service. The FQHC does have 2 locations. They have a location downriver area, as well as Hamtramck. And so we are working to see how we can formulate this agreement so that we can begin providing trauma-informed care to women. So that covers my proposed allocations for the fiscal year 2023 funding application. I tried my best to ensure that I was being cognizant of our current state, as well as ensuring that we are giving ourselves a little room to hopefully receive increased referrals for this fiscal year.
Sad that they didn't recognize the importance of some of these programs. And I truly don't know what they're going to do with the program that provided the testing, drug testing. So hopefully they'll revisit it once the judges come back in. Hopefully they will revisit that. To me, that seems like a very important part of their ability to come up with the proper sentencing.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Sure, go ahead.
Chief Dunlap here. One, I just want to say it's good to have Ms. McCann back. And I think it's very unfortunate that I believe when this application was submitted, it was submitted by someone who was filling in on her behalf, who unfortunately did not understand the value of some of these programs. And I'm kind of like you. I don't know if there would be a consideration for, say, the emergency that Ms. McCann was out for. I doubt it, but I think that has an impact. The fact that the person who submitted it, who is no longer with us, even themselves did not understand the work that was put in by Ms. McCann and all those involved before her and all of us. And so.
And that is so unfortunate.
Yes.
Chief Dunlap, because Ebony understands it.
Yes.
And unfortunately, you know, everybody just don't have that same understanding of what to do and how to do it. Go ahead.
If I may, Chief, while the delayed processing of the intergovernmental agreement with DWIN raised significant concerns from the Office of Community Corrections, based on the past 2 years, so for fiscal years 20 and fiscal year 2021, we didn't have any enrollments in drug testing. So the judges were unable to utilize drug testing. And while I definitely wanted the Office of Community Corrections to think of pre-pandemic, I think that their decision was based on we weren't utilizing programming because we couldn't go into the court. But I wish they would have realized that. But you know, the one thing that I've walked away while we're still in the pandemic, so I guess we haven't walked away, we're still kind of walking through it, is our ability to pivot. And so I'm hoping that we can pivot and that we do identify ways in which we can continue to provide the service. And so I have spoken with specialty courts, and while they have not agreed to take on drug testing, they are exploring what their options are. Do they have the funding to fund drug testing in the court? And so I think that we as criminal justice professionals have learned, or at least should have learned, that our collaborative efforts are paramount, and we need to collaborate more. And so hopefully we will take this as a lesson and learn from it, and moving forward, we're able to provide the services that we lost.
But we know that Ebony will be on it. And if there's any funds out there that she can identify, I know she will be on it. And as you say, a lesson learned, we just have to move forward and hope for the best.
Well, if I may, just one last question.
Sure.
So I'm wondering, as I look at the funding proposal, I don't see any that's specific for, say, jobs training programs. And I don't know if that's eligible for funding under this community corrections, with the exception of the one you mentioned for the one that's targeted for, I think you said, the people that are victims of violence. And so I'm also thinking of, individuals who are in jail that are going through, say, domestic violence training, drunk driving, and cognitive-based therapy programs for those individuals, because certainly, there's evidence that, when we can also connect them to an employment, it also helps to reduce this recidivism. So is that something that is eligible for funding? And I say that because I've been approached by several organizations, nonprofits, that has programs like truck driving training. I think I referred a couple of them to you.
Yep.
And so that's kind of the reason for my question.
So I had an extensive conversation with Janella Robinson on yesterday, and she pointed out that one of the three top concerns or needs for Wayne County offenders is vocation/education. So based on that Compass assessment that's administered on all probationers, the Compass assessment revealed that vocation educational services is a great need for our population. And so it is covered in the application. You can request for programming or funding for programming that kind of gears to that discipline. The proposal just needs to be submitted. The program description needs to be written, and we need to request it for fiscal year 2024. So while I don't think that we can request the money for this upcoming fiscal year, we definitely have the opportunity to start planning and wrapping our mind around what this looks like. Will those new classes take place in the community, or do we have room or space to provide them inside of the jail? Those are all discussions that we can come to the table to have as we plan for the fiscal year 2024 funding application, in which I invite everyone to sit down and be a part of. I think, again, this fiscal year 2023 application, shown that this application submission is not the job or should not be the work of one person. It requires our thoughts and collaboration across the board. And so I hope that when I do send out the email for the subcommittee, that we all sign up to participate and be active members of the Community Corrections Advisory Board Subcommittee.
Thank you.
Chair.
Go ahead.
Ella Robinson, Michigan Department of Corrections. I just want to thank Ebony for her work in revising this proposed application for submission. And as she indicated, we did have some discussions about some areas of needs that were highlighted by the Office of Community Corrections based on the needs of the individuals that are in our community in Wayne County. And that too, as she stated, vocation education being one of the high areas of need, as well as social environment and criminal personality. And it's important that as a board, that when these plans are developed, the application, that we're really looking at what the overall need is for this population to try to help drive recidivism down. So I'm hoping, and I'm proposing along with Ebony, that we are able to come together with some subgroups to really do a deep dive in Wayne County on what the needs are for this population and ensure as a body, we develop a plan that identifies and addresses all of those needs. I do know that the Office of Community Corrections is open and willing to have continued conversations throughout the fiscal year as we identify needs to ensure that those needs are met. So it's a conversation that they're looking forward to, as it's indicated here in the proposal. Above the contractual conditions, they indicated that they'd like for us to take this time into this next fiscal year to really analyze what those needs are, develop programming and plans to address those needs, so we can have a truly strong and robust plan for this population moving forward. So I'm looking forward to that opportunity. You know, I will respond to the email, the phone call, the text message, or whatever you send. I will be available and ready to assist 100% in that regards with you. Thank you.
No, and I'm very happy to hear you say that, because we know that one of the primary indicators that returning citizens have, it's jobs and job training. And there are so many jobs out there that does not require extensive training, one of them being truck drivers. And I know that Wayne County Community College, they have a program that we've been working with the Sheriff's Department and the County Commission and Wayne County Community College to teach truck driving and skills such as that will give them a chance to learn a skill that will provide them with a job without going years learning a trade. That truck driving, and there are several others that they can learn in a short period of time. And we know that there's such a demand for truck drivers. So, and we also know that the returning citizens, many of them, if they have are able to earn a good living, if they have jobs, the recidivism rate will be greatly reduced. So I'm really hopeful that we can move forward with a plan that will allow those returning citizens to get a job training in a very short period of time. So glad to hear that you are open to something like that. And I'm sure that Ebony will be working with you to try to make that happen. Okay. Right. Are there any other comments from anyone else here? Any other members? Sure.
I have one quick question.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Oh, you just turned it off.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Are we good?
Okay. Yes.
All right. I have one quick question. I see Heal the Hurt got the biggest allocation, that being $400,000.
You see who did?
Heal the Hurt. At the bottom, one of the last entries.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
And I'm just trying to figure out what does that entail, seeing it's such a large allocation?
Well, we know what gun violence is doing to our community, so I,
Sure do. I just want to know what the
yeah, I wanna know.
solution is going
Yeah,
to
that
be.
would be a good idea.
And so that's the RFP that will be issued. And so I will be gleaning on all of your expertise to see what do you think that program should consist of. So it's a new program that we are working to develop. And I hope that through your help or your assistance, we can change the way in which Wayne County provides programming by addressing this component of gun violence that we see every day on the news. And so hopefully we can combat it by providing this program, whether in the community or out inside of the jail, for particular offenders that have been charged with a gun offense. So
Thank
I'll be giving you a call.
Okay.
So in other
Feel free.
words, so in other words, if they have been charged with a gun, carrying a gun without registrations and et cetera, or are you talking about committing a crime with a gun?
Committing the crime. So not a resident or a citizen that is a CPL holder and their CPL has expired. So I think we should target individuals that are committing actual crimes with the use of a gun.
With guns.
And what does that look like? Are we offering them mentorship? Are we including some type of restorative justice where we're bringing in the victims as well? And so I think we have the opportunity to be extremely creative as we develop this RFP. I'm glad that we now have Deputy Chief Stewart here, whom I'm sure she sees day to day. Chief Dunlap sees inside the jail. Janella, Mrs. Robinson sees them at her office when they come in for probation, and Attorney Sharikin has to defend them, and Judge Larry Williams binds them over to our court. And so I think all of the expertise that we have here, we know based on our experience day to day, what will work, what can work, what has not worked, and what we think we'd like to see moving forward. So I think this gives us a wonderful opportunity to make the best use of this proposed $400,000 for not only fiscal year 2023, but years to come.
No, it's necessary. Comments on this report? Okay, so action. All right, so can I have a motion to approve the fiscal year 2023 funding proposal?
Madam Chair, I make a motion based on my confidence and faith in Ms. McCann's balancing what was given to us, that this budget be approved.
I have a support. I get that support. Okay. So it's been properly moved and supported that we approve the fiscal year 2023 funding proposal. Are there any other questions on the motion? Sure.
Looking at the budget proposals and moving forward and the cuts they make because we don't actually spend the money. With this new $400,000 in that RFP, are there any assurances that we're going to be sure that we're going to spend that money so that we don't get cut next year when we have the program in place and really need the funding to move forward?
I know that Ebony is going to be on that one, right?
So yes, but listed in the proposal from MDLC, MDOC, OCC, they were very, very clear that they realized that this is a planning and development year. And they kind of gave us that charge to use this time as a planning and development year. And so I think that as long as we have proof and documentation that, hey, we are working, we are looking to resolve this issue and develop a robust program. So we may not have referrals come, or we may not even have a program that's up and running by the end of the year. But as long as we can prove that we have a viable program description and we have attainable methods in which we're going to measure the outcomes of success, I think that they will be more than willing to grant us approval in the upcoming years.
Questions on this motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Those opposed? The motion carries. Next item, Madam Clerk.
Item E2, review and approval of the Michigan Department of Corrections fiscal year 2022 quarter reports.
Through the chair, I'm back. So the quarterly reports, the fiscal year 2022 funding application included new language that indicated that the quarterly reports have to be reviewed and approved by the CCAB board prior to submission to the Office of Community Corrections. That aspect of the contract was overlooked. And during my absence, the reports from quarter one, quarter two were submitted to the Office of Community Corrections, but they were not approved by this board. And so if I may, I'd like to take the opportunity to just provide an overview. I think you received the quarterly reports at length, but I would like to just highlight key components from the 3 quarterly reports, as well as give you a current update on the expenditures to date for community corrections. So during quarter one, the Detroit Wayne Integrative Health Network agreement had not been signed. And so as a result, programming, referrals for drug testing, relapse prevention, all of those pertinent services that they offer, we were unable to engage in business with them because the agreement had yet to be signed. The ETRS program that provides the DVT community and drunk driver jail reduction in the community, they were able to engage participants through the use of telehealth. And so ETRS was able to pivot during the pandemic and implement telehealth. The referrals were limited as a result of the recommendations or sentencing from the judges, but ETRS did pivot and was able to provide some services. We did see, it's noted that adult fugitive apprehension referrals had declined because of the specialty courts weren't accepting new participants. So overall, quarter one showed that we were still in the pandemic, that we were still trying to figure out what our new normal looked like and how to adjust to our new normal. Quarter two, sadly, the agreement with DWIN had not been signed, and we were still unable to provide those services. But in addition to that, we were also experiencing the fallout from the Great Resignation. So we saw that instead of returning to work, a lot of county employees decided, or not necessarily county employees, a lot of people across the country decided to resign from their current jobs, and we then were faced with this Great Resignation. And so we had a lot of positions that were unfilled from both county side, as well as our vendors were experiencing the fallout of the Great Resignation as well. It was noted in the quarterly 2 report that ongoing job fairs were from the county were held in an attempt to obtain employees to fill some of these positions. And we still were dealing with the Third Circuit Court buildings not being open to the public. And so that was, again, one of the issues in which our referrals come directly from the court or probation violator. And because of the backlog at the court, we were, again, not seeing referrals to our programming. We did see an increase in utilization during Q2 because at that time, I think the conversations with the Michigan Department of Corrections kind of started to inquire as to what could we do? We can't get the referrals from the court. How can we ensure that agents are aware of the referral process? And so we did see a slight increase in programming referrals during Q3. So here we are at Q3. And Q3 reveals that we are progressing. We are moving in the right direction. We have seen an increase, a continued increase of referrals and increase of expenditures utilization. So we're going in the right direction. I think that as individuals start returning to work, we are now thinking of ways in which we all could work together to implement or pivot our referral process. CDU staff, I would like to add, throughout the entire pandemic, have been attending daily Zoom court proceedings. And as a result of those court proceedings, they identify potential eligible defendants based on their admission during the Zoom court proceedings. And whether or not they are ultimately sentenced to a program, that's at the discretion of the judge, but CDU staff have been, since day one, attending those Zoom hearings daily. So I did want to note that. As of today's date, I have not received any formal communication regarding the opening of the court. That's not to say that it has not been sent out. I have not personally received any formal communication regarding the opening of the court to the public. The backlogs of dispositions has had a direct impact on the enrollment into our cognitive behavioral therapy programs, specifically the PAGE program that takes place in the jail, as well as the DVT jail component. And so I wanted to add note to that. The agreement with the Detroit Wayne Integrated Health Network was signed and approved by the Wayne County Commission on July 21st, 2022. And as a result, we were able to engage in services with Black Family Development and Detroit Recovery Project, as well as Naomi's Nest and Genesis 3. And so those vendors were directly impacted by the delayed processing of this agreement, but they are now able to receive referrals. As soon as the agreement was signed, I sent out an email to them and the Michigan Department of Corrections to let them know, like, hey, we can start referrals now. And so it's my hope that this last quarter of the fiscal year, while we obviously won't expend all of the funds, it is my hope that they are able to provide some services to the population. I'm sorry, Chair, if I may, I do want to share where we are as it pertains to our current expenditures. I think that the severity of us working to pivot and identify a means in which we could increase referrals, I think this information is necessary. I'm sorry, excuse me. So as of July 30th, 2022, we have expended $768,016.50. We have a little under $1.4 million that we haven't utilized for this current fiscal year. And again, the reasons that I noted, the Great Resignation, the court not being open to the public, the backlog, all of those challenges have played a significant role on our ability to expend the funds. And so that's why I need your help to identify a mean in which we could creatively refer and receive referrals for programming in the upcoming fiscal year.
Need approval on this one. Yeah, we need approval on all three reports so we can take them all together, right? We'll take them all together. Can I have a motion on that? On item number 2?
I'll make the motion.
Where did that come from? Fine, thank you. And support? Properly moved and supported that we approve the review, the MDOT fiscal year 2022. Are there any comments or questions on that item? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion carries. Next item, Madam Clerk.
Item E3, discussion of the appointment of Commander Tiffany Stewart, Detroit Police Department.
Present today is Deputy Chief, newly appointed Deputy Chief Tiffany Stewart from the Detroit Police Department. She was, or she will serve as the designee for James White, who's the chief of the Detroit Police Department. We approved, or the board approved her appointment last week, and so we welcome you, and we would like for you to address the body today.
Thank you. Through the board, I am honored to work with you all, and will be a pleasure to work with you all to find creative ways to reduce recidivism within offenders in the community. I'm a 26-year veteran on this police department. I've seen a lot. A lot of questions with regard to what's going on, what happened during the pandemic. Some of the stories or some of the issues have, quite frankly, created a real issue within the community today. I'm sure Chief Dunlap has seen them, MDOC Ms. Robinson has seen them. So I'm honored to be on the board to come up and help find solutions, and quite frankly, to learn more of what's out there to provide referrals even for Detroit Police as well. Thank you.
We're honored to have you here. We look forward to your input so that we can make this thing work. Okay, so do we need to vote on this or have it? Okay, so we don't need to. Moving right along. Thanks for coming, and thanks for serving. All right, next item, Madam Clerk.
Item E4, discussion of other board vacancies.
Ebony?
Yes, so I would like to share that the Community Corrections Advisory Board has 4 vacancies as of today's date. I did receive a letter of resignation from Amy Schomburger, whom was the Executive Director of Heartlines. She accepted a position with the Michigan Department of Corrections. And so as she advances her career, the spot on the board became available. So typically referrals for the Community Corrections Advisory Board comes through the chair. Those referrals or recommendations are presented to the Wayne County Commission. And so we ask, and we have asked in the past, that if you are aware of anyone that you think would be a good candidate to serve on this board, that you obtain their resume and have it sent directly to the chair of the board, and she will review those resumes and submit them to commission as needed for approval. We are in need of a representative from the mental health, public health, substance abuse, employment and training, or community alternative program. We don't have a representative from the prosecutor's office. We need a representative from communications media, as well as the local workforce investment board. And so there are 4 open positions. Again, if you are aware of anyone who'd like to serve, or you think would be a good benefit and can provide anything to the board, please share those resumes with Commissioner Clark Coleman.
Okay, so Ebony, would you please send an email out
Yes.
to all members?
Yes.
Letting them know about the vacancies and the criteria to fill these vacancies. And if they know of someone, I would rather they send it to you first. You can coordinate that, and then you can send it on to me. So she will send an email out to all of you, letting you know that of these vacancies and where they should come from at the criteria for those members. And if you get them to me as soon as possible, we will always also send a copy to Pam, our clerk, so that she can send it to commission members in case they know of someone that they would like to recommend. Okay? All right. Are there any other suggestions? Hey, we're moving right along. Clerk?
Item F, such other matters as may be properly submitted before the board.
I've not been informed of any other matters. Yes, ma'am.
As we move forward, a quarterly meeting cadence will be emailed to you at the conclusion of this meeting so that you can mark it on your calendar in preparation for the upcoming fiscal year. I do know that we will have to meet, I want to say in November to review the quarter. We would have to meet in October to review the Q4 report, which is Q4 ends September 30th. And the report is due to the Michigan Department of Corrections within 30 days of the close of Q4. And so I will be sending out a meeting notice with that appointment as well as subsequent cadence for the review and approval of future Q4 reports or quarterly reports. And I hope that it aligns with the funding proposal applications and things of that nature so that I'm not taking too much of your time.
Okay. Next item, Madam Clerk.
Public comments. Madam Chair, no emails have been received. I don't see any hands up on Zoom.
Caleb's hand, what's up?
So at this time, this is a time for public comments. If there's anyone from the public who would like to speak at this time, you can go ahead. Either on Zoom or on their telephone or here in person. Number 2. Is there anyone at this time who would like to speak before this board? Either on Zoom, in person, or on the phone. Last call. Is there anyone from the public who would like to make a statement at this time? Hearing none. Next item.
Adjournment.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
I motion that we be adjourned.
Support?
Support.
Is adjourned. All in favor? Aye.